Alejandro, did you know that Herc does interviews now?
Oh, yes, I do. He's been very busy.
There's a
We
little,
love some
there's a little
Herculez.
jealousy in that comment.
Yes, there was. You know what it is, Herc, is the fact that you have access and he doesn't.
Get lost, Seb. Get lost, Seb.
You know what's funny? With access, you can't give your opinions so much. Maybe if our analysts gave opinions, it wouldn't come down to the guy sitting in the host. But we can get to that another time, huh?
Listen. Is that a shot at Herculez? Because I hope it's not at me.
It wasn't at me, I don't think. Look at him getting nervous.
Look, one of the no, it was definitely at you. It was definitely you. Look, one of your recent interviews, Tyler Adams, he talked about something that the U.S. men's national team used to have all the time back in the day. They don't have it now. What's it called? Leadership. Here's the clip.
Yeah, being a leader. I think that also entitles being the captain. I think that, I would never shy away from doing that. And
That's what I was going at. You want to be the captain.
Yeah, I mean, it's no secret. I think that the responsibility that it takes to go out there, get a group of guys to all be on the same page and be able to develop myself as a leader and also the people around me. I feel like I've had leaders, I've had captains that have been able to nourish me, and I feel like I understand the responsibility of what it takes.
Herc is the former U.S. national teamer in this group. I'll start with you. Beyond whether he should actually be the captain or not, before we get to that, how do you feel about him saying it publicly, that this is something he wants?
I love it. And given the circumstances, and let me tell you why. Can you guys name the last 3 captains for the U.S. men's national team?
Is this part of the quiz?
It's not. But what I'm trying to get at is since Gregg Berhalter took over,
Will Trapp,
captain. Yes, Will Trapp was one of the captains. But it's been a different captain every game. It's been musical chairs with this. It hasn't been taken seriously. What used to be a group of great leaders for a group of players that, for better or worse, whether they were tactically adept enough or they were technically good at what is the game, that didn't matter. They always rolled up their sleeves. There's a spirit about them. There was leadership to this team. That's no longer here anymore. And when you talk about identity, well, leadership is one of those things that we should talk about when it comes to the identity of this team. They don't have it. They don't have a leader. Gregg hasn't given a player the responsibility to be an out-and-out leader. So I love that Tyler Adams is saying, I want that responsibility. He said so himself. He's been groomed by great leaders. He understands the responsibility. He understands the role. He cherishes that challenge of taking this responsibility. Why not give it to him? You look what he's done. You look where he is and where he could potentially be going. I think it's made for him.
Ale, you ever had a teammate, let alone a 21-year-old one, come out in the media and say, I want to be the captain?
Not in so many words, and certainly not a young player like Tyler Adams. And look, I don't mind the fact that he comes out and says, well, this is a goal of mine. This is something I've wanted out of my career. This is a level I want to achieve. Fine. That's beautiful. That's gorgeous. It's excellent. But here's the thing. You got to stay healthy. You got to be out on the field consistently. You have to have a consistent run of games at club level. And then you have to find what your best position is with the national team. And once you do that, and then you get a consistent run of games with the national team, then we can start talking about the possibility of you being that presence, of you being that leader. And leadership, it isn't just about, hey, I'm wearing the captain's armband and I'm walking out on the field and I'm leading the team onto the field. There's something to be said about what happens in training, what happens in the media room, what happens in the meal room, what happens when you're having all sorts of conversations about what the team should be like and what the team is going to look like out on the field, when you're watching video, all of those things, there's got to be a presence about you. And whether people like it or not, in order for you to have a presence about you, you can't just be another player out on the field. You have to be an impactful player. Yes, having that presence and having that leadership also comes with the fact that you're able to deliver in terms of productivity, and you're able to deliver consistently with your job out on the field. And until we find out what Tyler Adams and what his best version is with the U.S. national team, and what we are able to see in terms of consistency, time and time again, at club level and then a national team level, then I think this conversation about being the national team captain is a little premature.
Herc, you mentioned all that he's done. He's got 10 caps for the national team. He's played less than 100 top-flight games. He's 21 years old. Is he experienced enough? Not old enough, experienced enough to be national team captain?
Seb, I've heard you scream from the mountaintops that we should move on from the Michael Bradleys, from the Josie Altidores, from the Tim Reams and all these other different players. Well, here you have a group of very young players. I would say the oldest among them probably 25, 26 years old. And you have a player playing for RB Leipzig in the Bundesliga, getting Champions League games, who's now getting national team games at a consistent level, who all of us here have said, besides Christian Pulisic, is probably the most fundamental player on the national team. I think he has the substance about him right now within that group. Now, listen, this isn't Argentina. This isn't Brazil. You don't have the luxury of a player pool of like over 200 players, some of those players playing abroad at very high levels. That's not what it is. This is CONCACAF. This is the U.S. men's national team. And during what is this pool, yes, he's easily one of the most experienced, easily one of the most fit to be established as a leader. Now, listen, Ali's played with different types of players throughout his career. Some players are timid and they go with the flow. Some players just want to show up, do the work, and go home. Others are bought in, and from day one, they want to be known as leaders. This is one of those players. It's in him to want this armband. Now, whether he can stay healthy, like Ali said, whether he can prove it is another thing. But I think he's got all the chops of actually being in consideration for what is the captain of this team.
Ale, how does a guy like Michael Bradley, 15-year professional career, 150 caps, take a backseat to a guy like Tyler Adams? Is that going to be easy?
You don't. You don't take a backseat. And if you're Michael Bradley and you have done and accomplished however much you have accomplished with the national team, you don't just sort of gracefully slide to the side and allow somebody else and take your position. There is a certain competitiveness that goes along with being part of the national team picture for as long as he has, and having had the role that he has had for the national team. And your father is Bob Bradley. Do you think at Thanksgiving, when they're joining hands and praying and bowing their heads and talking about what the next year is going to look like for the U.S. national team, do you think Bob Bradley would in any way sanction the idea of Michael Bradley just saying, Tyler, you can come in and take my position? No chance. It's not in the DNA. It's not in the DNA. So if you're Michael Bradley and you still think that you can be an impactful player and a key contributor to the U.S. men's national team, you're going to fight for it. And whoever comes behind you is going to have to earn it, which I think is great, by the way. I think the fact that you have competition is great. It's great both for Michael Bradley and for Tyler Adams. So if Tyler Adams is able to come into the picture and say, yeah, this is my position, I'm going to prove it with my play, then you are going to have a better version of what Tyler Adams will be now and into the future. And if for the last couple of years of Michael Bradley's career, he is pushed to the extreme by Tyler Adams, then you're going to get the very best of him or whatever he has left to give. And I think the U.S. men's national team therefore benefits from it. But to answer your question, I don't think a player of the stature in this country of Michael Bradley just kind of goes to the side and says, yeah, you go ahead and take over. No, I think Michael Bradley will fight. And I think he's going to do it not in a way that is going to affect the interactions within the group, but he's going to do it in a way that shows a version of leadership and say, okay, right, you want this? You want what I got in my arm? You come and get it, son. You come and get it, because I'm here and I'm not going away until I decide that I'm going to go away and until my performance proves that I have to go away. Until then, you're going to have to come and fight for this.
Herc, why do you think it's time to move on from Michael Bradley as captain? Is it because of what happened in Trinidad?
I never said that.
You said Tyler Adams should be captain. So it's time to move on from Bradley. And then you said people like you.
Michael Bradley hasn't also been getting called in a whole lot. It's not also up to Michael Bradley. Gregg Berhalter.
Bradley was wearing a captain's armband at the Gold Cup and was yelling at everybody before the game. Come on. Come on.
And what does that mean? Look, hold on a second.
Michael Bradley's the captain of the team.
Are you retiring
You're
Michael
ending
Bradley?
his captaincy. You're ending his captaincy. That's what you just said.
This team doesn't have a captain. I started out the segment by telling you, do you know how many different captains there have been? This team doesn't have a set captain. Now, listen, Michael Bradley's not going to be around forever, okay? And if one thing I do know, having spoken to Tyler Adams, is he's of that vein, the Bob Bradley umbrella. It's Bob Bradley, Michael Bradley, Jesse Marsh, Chris Armas.
Herculez Gomez.
all these types of great leaders that speak of wanting to be a leader. You know, just because you have an personal issue with them doesn't mean that this is a kid who speaks like them, talks like them, acts like them. He's already acting like a leader. Him voicing that he wants to be a captain should come as no surprise to you. Now, do I think Michael Bradley's going to give it up? No, of course not. Do I think Michael Bradley still has a lot more with the national team? Absolutely. But I'd love nothing more than Michael Bradley to groom what is a future captain in Tyler Adams.
Can I tell you this?
Yes.
I just before we go?
The final word.
How about giving this responsibility to your flag bearer? To the guy who is the reference point for this national team. And
Captain America.
And that guy is not Michael Bradley. It's not Jose Altidore. It's not Tyler Adams. It's not Josh Sargent. It's not Weston McKennie. No. Who's your best player?
Yeah,
that's
you
Christian
gotta want
Pulisic.
it though.
You're Christian Pulisic. At some point, you have to be the guy. You're going to be the guy regardless of whether you want to or not, because that is the level of expectation that you have on your shoulders, given the fact that you play where you play. So you are the reference point. Then put that armband on and be a leader. Now, I understand that you're not just all of a sudden wake up one day and say, I'm a leader. No. But at some point, you have to be able to assume the responsibility that comes with being the guy.
Yeah.
And if you're the guy, then you got to show up like the guy, and then you walk into the room like the guy. And everybody else then kind of follows suit. But if you shy away from it, now that gives room for everybody else to just kind of say, well, if he's not doing it, then I don't have to do it. He doesn't have to do it. If he's taking shortcuts, I can take shortcuts. Look, there's a responsibility here that is innate with being the best player in a country. And he is the best player. Christian Pulisic is the best player in this country. It is time for him to begin to act upon it, not just on performances, but on what he does in carrying this national team forward.
Ali, and we've been down this road before. I mean, does it not remind you of Landon Donovan and all that was Landon Donovan and how he shied away from this leadership role? And throughout Landon Donovan's tenure with the national team, he wasn't the captain. I almost see the same type of personality traits in Christian Pulisic as Landon Donovan. The best player, the face, the flag bearer, as you just mentioned, but doesn't necessarily want that responsibility.
You don't think he wants to be captain, Herc?
I don't see the personality traits, no.
All right. Plenty of choices then for Gregg Berhalter as he tries to settle on a new captain. We'll see who it is.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.